Every hour of every day, a child is abused in California. As the economy worsens, the numbers increase. But Prop 1D cuts child abuse prevention programs at the very time they're needed most.
Prop 1D devastates our ability to protect California's children, cutting child abuse prevention programs at a time when child abuse is soaring. Please don't let it happen. Vote no on 1D.
Join the fight against 1D at stop1d.com.
As an accounting professor, I teach my students to look at the fine print. So when the politicians behind our budget mess wrote Prop 1A, I read it closely. Turns out their so-called rainy day fund includes a supplemental account, a loophole that lets them spend billions on pork barrel projects outside the regular budget. And for all their talk about crisis, 1A won't kick in for 2 years.
Read the fine print for yourself at voterguide.sos.ca.gov.
Vote no on 1A.
This is Rob Reiner. Our kids don't know it, but on Tuesday, the state's budget mess will put them at risk. That's because Propositions 1D and 1E cut children's health and mental health care. These are some of the worst budget cuts in California history. 1D and 1E won't balance the budget, and they'll end up costing California more in the long run. California teachers are against this, nurses are against it. But guess who's for it? The state legislature and their friends, the tobacco and oil companies. It's a bad budget deal. It protects the special interests and hurts kids. This is Rob Reiner saying please vote no on 1D and 1E next Tuesday. Don't believe the scare tactics. We can balance our budget without hurting kids.
Paid for by No on Prop 1D and 1E. Don't cut children's services and mental health care. Sponsored by mental health organizations. Major funding by California Council of Community Mental Health Agencies and Rob Reiner.
This is John Kupal, president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, with an urgent warning about Proposition 1A, a $16 billion tax increase on the May 19th ballot. Sacramento politicians have just enacted the largest tax increase in California history, giving us the highest sales, income, and car taxes in the nation. And if you have dependent children at home, you get hit with another $200 per child. Proposition 1A will extend these taxes for an additional 2 years, costing taxpayers another $16 billion. The politicians call Proposition 1A budget reform and a spending limit, but don't be fooled. Like a wolf in sheep's clothing, Prop 1A is not what it appears to be. The budget reform is fake, allowing the so-called spending cap to go up every time taxes are raised. Remember, Proposition 1A is a massive $16 billion tax increase. Please vote no on Prop 1A.
To learn how you can help defeat the Prop 1A tax hike, go to hjta.org. Paid for by No New Taxes, No on 1A, a project of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. On May 19th, special election day, the promoters of Proposition 1A want you to believe Prop 1A is budget reform.
You want me to get that?
No, I'm here.
Just nice, warm, and fuzzy budget reform. Kinda like a sheep.
Aren't you the cutest little... Honey, it's a sheep!
But don't you be fooled. Proposition 1A is actually a $16 billion tax increase.
It's a what?
Look how soft and...
In truth, Proposition 1A will extend February's record-high tax increases and cost taxpayers another $16 billion.
What was that?
Vote no on Proposition 1A, because under that sheep's clothing is a $16 billion wolf.
This is John Kupal, president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. To learn how you can help defeat the Prop 1A tax hike, go to hjta.org.
Paid for by No New Taxes, No on 1A, a project of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
This is John Kupal, president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Last month, behind closed doors, Sacramento politicians made a deal to resolve the budget mess. But what do you really know about the deal? The fact is, this backroom deal raised taxes on the typical California family by over $1,100 per year. Not only did they raise sales taxes, but income taxes and car taxes. And if you have dependent children at home, you get hit with another $200 per child. While protecting a long list of special interests, politicians have now made ordinary Californians the highest tax citizens in America. But we don't have to take this lying down. I invite you to join us and fight back. We are the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. 30 years ago, we passed Proposition 13, saving California homeowners billions of dollars. And together, we can show them again.
To learn how the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is leading the California tax revolt and fighting for your rights, go to hjta.org. That's hjta.org.
Hi, this is Mike Janess, Director of the State Department of Finance, filling in for Governor Arnold-Schwarzenegger with another California report. This is the week when we in Sacramento normally put together a revised state budget. But everything about this budget season has been extraordinary, and this week is no exception. Our revised budget hinges in part on the outcome of the May 19 special election. In February, we solved California's unprecedented $42 billion budget shortfall with a combination of solutions including both cuts and revenue increases. $6 billion worth of those solutions won't happen unless they're approved by the voters on May 19th. So we have postponed our revised budget for 2 weeks. And in the meantime, the Department of Finance has been updating our revenue estimates and taking into account new costs like caseload increases in health and welfare programs that always hit our budget during down economic times. I have to tell you, it's not a pretty picture. This recession is cutting into tax revenues and increasing the need for state services. But there's more for us to worry about this year. I don't know what we're going to be forced to do if the propositions on the May 19th ballot don't pass. I'll have to bring additional budget cuts to the governor. None of these will be pleasant. In fact, some will be called draconian. But we'll have to balance our budget one way or another, no matter how deep we have to cut to get that job done. I can't promise that we won't have to close fire stations and reduce firefighting staff. This could include closing 11 conservation camps, 20 fire stations, and a 10% reduction in CAL FIRE's overall budget. Prisons are another option that must be explored. That means releasing inmates. By releasing 19,000 non-serious offenders, we could save the general fund more than $53 million. In addition, we could save another $182 million by releasing undocumented immigrants to be deported. Schools, unfortunately, would also face reductions. The economic downturn has already forced us to make big cuts in education. If we have to make up for another $6 billion, we will be very likely to have to cut even more. One option would be to reduce the Proposition 98 minimum guarantee. Schools would make up for these additional cuts in any number of ways, from increasing class sizes to laying off teachers and bus drivers to cutting music and art classes. As I said, not pretty. We may also have no other option than to look at borrowing from local government. That could include up to $2 billion in 2009-10, and that could mean reductions in locally funded services. For example, that option means the state could borrow $68 million from Los Angeles and up to $5 million from Fresno. The state could also be forced to look at further cuts to medical programs and in-home support services. This is the reality of where we are with our state budget. We will respect the will of the voters, regardless of what happens. And we will continue to update you as we move through this process and review all options for the state of California. On behalf of Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, this is Mike Janess. Thank you for listening.